Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of 5 Minute Friday. My name is Karina Myers, and I'm the User Experience Practice Lead here at CDH. And today we're going to be talking about user experience trends in 2019. We're going to be focusing on 5, and let's get started. So the first one in my list is the Internet of Things. And I'd be curious to see how many of you are familiar with this terminology. But it basically describes the way that devices are interconnected and with each other and capture information for you. And at the same time, it provides information to you. And all of this is happening and it's possible because they're connected via the internet. And here I listed a few examples of how this has been brought from the industrial side of things to the consumer Internet of Things. Some examples are in transportation, for instance, self-parking cars, GPS locators. We got the security aspect of it where we can see, we now have access to biometric and facial recognition locks and remote sensors. And I mean, that's a very common example of that are the Face ID feature that we get now in iPhones and things like that. But a really good example of that that's actually has been catching on quite a bit is the smart building component in, home monitoring, home automation, the ability that we now have of being able to get reports from our thermostat and manage our air conditioning settings or our background music. So all of these components really has really revolutionized the way we see technology and how we interact with it in our everyday life. And in that same category, just like a subcategory of that are the wearables. And I really want that to be a big focus here too in one of my top 5 lists, because again, it's one of those things that we are doing now. It's now, and we're applying it. And we are seeing that it's not only limited to smartwatches anymore. It's now, it's being applied quite a bit in the health industry where you can monitor, sleep habits and heart rate and kind of get that feedback without having to do much, but just putting on something, wearing something. There is this data that is being captured that's going to help you make decisions to live a healthier life. Now, in the user interface, user experience side of things, this presents a challenge to us as those that work in implementing the solutions. As far as the design, it is a challenge because we need to make sure we capture these requirements and show this data in a simplified manner in the user interface that is presented to the end user. So we're seeing a lot of success stories out there, but I believe that that's going to evolve and it's going to get even better as we move forward. The next one in my list is personalization. And this has been a topic of conversation in the last year. The ability of showing curated information based on users' needs or expectations in real time, which is also known as content targeting. There's also that self-learning, machine learning side of things, where the system, the application, can learn based on from the user data that has been collected and provide that unique user experience. So what are the advantages of having personalization? We have, as an individual, finding information that is that's something that you can relate. You can have that individual experience. You can, it increases that sense of connectivity. Some good examples of that are really out there is Spotify, Netflix, where you get all these recommendations based on the movies you have seen or the music you have listened to. Another great example that's being applied in the hotel business is, for instance, if you're a Gold Star member at a hotel, at a 5-star hotel, all your preferences and your configurations of how you like that experience to be when you make a hotel reservation will be saved, will be part of your account, of your profile in this hotel. So some hotels have Alexa available, and you can have your configuration as far as music preferences already saved. So then even though you are staying at a hotel, you would have that home experience. So this is great. And the great thing, and again, from us who are building these experiences on the side of implementation, how do you get to this point where you can really make this implementation successful? And it's everything is at the core is with user research. So user research plays an important role in setting up these applications and these solutions for success. So, and the key here is that we want to make it a seamless experience, not to be forced. You don't want it to look like it was forced. And the way you get to that point is based on that user research. You also got to make sure you test and iterate. So testing and iteration and improving and enhancement, it's just like, it's a cycle that just goes on and on. So that's very important. Some things to remember when it comes to personalization and setting up targeted content. You want to make sure that the personalization that is added adds value to your business goals. And don't make assumptions about your targeted audience. You'll be surprised how many times we find out a lot. We believe we know everything about our end user and the personas that we come up with. And then once you get to do those user research and those interviews, there's a lot of surprises and a lot of additional data that we get to capture. Okay, so the next one in my list is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is already making improvements in customer service, data management, decision-making abilities. There's that intelligent component. However, something that is very important that is being shaped quite a bit is that emotional intelligence, which basically means the ability to recognize and understand emotions. This is where user experience really plays an important role, because smart machines, they can diagnose complex business problems and recommend actions based on the metrics and the values that you identified. However, there's a human being component where it can only be obtained based on user research, really getting to know the person and trying to continuously reshape and refine that data so the artificial intelligence can be successful. The last one on my list is a very important one, and it's we've been doing quite a bit of lately. You hear about mobile friendly design. Now it's more than that. Now you realize that it's not even mobile friendly design. It's really device agnostic approach. You want to think of it as start with the user and see what the requirements are based on their needs. It could be a phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a desktop, but it could also be some other type of component. It could be a wearable, or in the way that they're going to interact. So voice commands have been very popular lately. We have Siri, we have Alexa, where you don't even need to start clicking or doing the work yourself. All you have to do is talk to it, and it will understand what you're saying and follow a command. However, there are some other interactive modalities that we need to take into consideration in user experience, where it's not only voice commands. So that's very popular. There's also the haptics, touch, and vision, which is like gesture. So, for instance, which ones are you going to use when creating an implementation and trying to prepare a successful interaction? If the persona or the end user has the auditory channel not available at the time, for instance, if it's someone that's working, like if you're scuba diving or winter skiing, it's going to be in a noisy environment, so like where you won't be able to listen to things. So then that's where the way that you would encourage users to use an application or a solution would be using the gestural or touch. Those two interaction models become very essential. Again, if touch isn't available. For instance, if the application or the app or the solution that we are building is for, let's see, a surgeon where touch isn't available, like they are sterilized, they're handling sterilized objects, they cannot be touching the application. So then that's where you start thinking of other ways to interact with them. Speech, gesture, those would be a way to implement solutions in an application. So this is really, I feel like we're going to see a lot more of these, where it's not only going to be, I mean, we have gone too far. We have gone really far and make great progress when it comes to voice commands. And but I definitely see just having that ability to train a neural network where you can recognize a set of gestures, like if I wave to turn on something, or if I smile to have some type of reaction from my application. But something to consider when doing this type of approaches is that there's a lot of learning that we need to do, and really based on user research, to see what would be common gestures when designing an application. Is wave like a common language to initiate something or start something? And something to keep in mind is also that most of these are very generation specific. Again, user research becomes a very important component when planning for these solutions. All right, so those were my top 5, and I would be curious, and I would be remiss to not ask some questions at the end of my presentation, especially this being about user experience. How many did you guess? Has your organization have they started introducing any of these technologies as part of their business strategy or part of their process? I'd be very curious to see that. And I would recommend, just take a look and see when was the last time your organization had a user experience health check. I think mobile-friendly application going responsive is a great start. So just something to think about. And of course, I had to ask, what should my next Friday presentation should be about? Just send us a message or leave a comment, and I'll be happy to take that into consideration. All right, well, this has been my top 5, and I'm signing off for now, and thanks for joining.